Yet another great story coming out from Glenn Greenwald, and it's this time more of the Snowden revelations, but this is different than something we've seen before. This involves the GCHQ, which is of course Britain's intelligence unit, and their previously secret part of that unit called the Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group, and how they do propaganda online. Damn. They've got the memos internally from how they do it, and of course the Five Eyes all participate in this intelligence gathering operations together. So if Britain does it, as they're doing it here, will they share the information and with the U.S. and the other Five Eyes? Yes. And if you don't know the Five Eyes, that's U.S., Britain, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. It's what they call themselves. It's their intelligence groups working together. Hey, what can you do in Britain? What can you do in Australia and America? How can we violate each other's laws without having to do it ourselves and get our hands dirty? In this case, they do it with propaganda. So the document that they received from the Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group is, quote, "The Art of Deception, Training for Online Covert Operations." Oh boy, this ought to be good. All right, and the first thing that you find out is that it is, of course, not necessarily directed towards terrorists. Of course! Here's one of the slides. It says cyber offensive session. And they know it. Look at this. Pushing the boundaries and action against hacktivism. And it refers to a guy from Serious Crime Effects, etc., right? So, terrorism, that's old news. Hacktivism, hacktivism. Who are the hacktivists? Well, anyone who's opposed to these intelligence groups online, I guess, would make you a hacktivist, right? As they explain here in The Intercept. Critically, the targets, quote, were for this deceit and reputation destruction extend far beyond the customary roster of normal spycraft, hostile nations and their leaders, military agencies, and intelligence services. In fact, the discussion of many of these techniques occurs in the context of using them in lieu of traditional law enforcement against people suspected, but not charged or convicted of ordinary crimes, or more broadly still, quote, hacktivism, meaning those who use online protest activity for political ends. Now, those are the people that are supposed to be protected the most in a democracy, people protesting against their government or different government agencies and what they're up to. Turns out those government agencies don't see it that way. They call you a hacktivist. Now look, understand that if you were going to do character assassination online, in order to get a certain mark or a target, and it's in a hostile country, and you want to flip them somehow, I know the CIA has been doing that a long time, and they do it offline, they might even do it online, and you might disagree with that tactic, but it's a little bit more understandable, or against a legitimate target that's a terrorist who's looking to do damage to the country. But that is not who we're using it against, certainly not exclusively. As you can see here, we're using it against citizens who disagree with these government agencies. And so what are they doing to them? Get a load of these slides. Here's one. It says disruption, operational playbook. Oh boy. Here are the topics that they're going to cover. Infiltration operation, ruse operation, set piece operation, false flag operation, false rescue operation, disruption operation, and sting operation. And every one of these is explained, and they're not pretty. A false flag operation is where they pretend to be someone else, and there's a whole slew of dirty tricks. Let me just give you some of them from some of the slides. Here's how to discredit a target. Set up a honey trap, and that's really interesting. Let's pause there for a second as I explain that one. I had a former CIA operative that I interviewed, Lindsay Moran, on the show. You can watch it on TYT Interviews. She explained what a honey trap was. That was the first time I'd ever heard it. It's when you seduce a target. In that case, it was legitimate CIA targets abroad that we were looking to flip, right? And you use, in that, if it's a guy who's your target, you use an attractive woman, and you get them to believe that they're going to have sex. Now, do they actually have sex? Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do, right? And now they're saying, let's use this online against government opponents, right? So let's set up a honey trap for them and see if they bite. That's our governments, in this case Britain, but again, the NSA works with all these guys, to say, yeah, let's seduce them. I don't know if they actually have the sex or don't have the sex, or they seduce them into doing something sexual online. And isn't it funny that whenever someone is causing trouble for the government, like for example Julian Assange, what's the charges? Oh, he had sex in the wrong ways. He didn't use a condom, this, that, and the other thing. Eliot Spitzer was challenging the banks who basically run the government here in the United States. What happened? Oh, look at that. We found funds for a prostitute. Sex, 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 huh? First thing in the slide for discredit a target. Set up a honey trap. It's not us saying it. It's the British government who wrote that down. Second one. Change their photos on social networking sites. That seems particularly weak if you ask me. I think they're going to find out. Anyway, write a blog purporting to be one of their victims. Oh, come on. Isn't that great? So you say, oh my God, the victims. It turns out some of the victims are fake. It was written by guys at GCHQ. And the last one there was email, text their colleagues, neighbors, friends, etc. So send emails to their family, their parents, their whoever else, their wives, with false information to discredit them. Aren't you so proud of your government? I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. I don't think so. All right, discredit a company. Okay, how do they do that? Leak confidential information to companies, the press, via blogs. Okay, so get their confidential information and then leak it. Wait, I thought you guys were opposed to leaks. Right now, by the way, as we speak, they're crying a river over this leak. When they leak it, they love it. When it's leaked about them, they hate it. Post negative information on appropriate forums, stop deals, and ruin business relationships. By the way, what did they do to the head of Quest? You remember? In America, he was the one guy among the phone companies that didn't play ball and give over his clients' private information to the government in an illegal fashion. For that brave act of patriotism, eventually they said, oh, sorry, we had to pull all of your government contracts. And look at that. It turns out now Quest is in trouble, and you sold some stock at some point. Insider trading. They put him in jail. And people have crazy conspiracy theories. They have a manual for how to do it. They explain in another slide, effects definition. Using online techniques to make something happen in the real or cyber world. Two broad categories. Information ops, influence or disruption, technical disruption, known in GCHQ as online covert action, the 4 Ds. Deny, disrupt, degrade, deceive. Those are the 4 Ds that they keep going back to. Now, again, The Intercept explains. Under the title Online Covert Action, the documents detail a variety of means to engage in influence and info ops, as well as disruption and computer net attack, while dissecting how human beings can be manipulated using leaders, trust, obedience, and compliance. In other words, they have a manual on how to get you to bow your head. And one of the keys to that is to get trusted leaders in the media to say, no, this is right. The government is right. Now everybody comply. And in fact, they have a different slide. And there's so many different things in here to learn. It's amazing. Let me show you this. In this slide, you'll see highlighted conspiracy stories. Plant some of those in the online, etc. Use on the right-hand side, you see hindsight bias, confirmation bias, anchoring and priming targets to believe a certain thing, and then confirm their bias already, etc. They have all these psychological tactics to get you to believe things that aren't true. But my favorite is at the bottom there: propaganda, branding, marketing, and then even advertising. Okay. They know they're doing propaganda. They have a manual that says do propaganda in the media. And one of the things they do is they get thought leaders in the media to totally agree with the government and to exclude the hacktivists that are protesting online government actions and say, that guy's illegitimate. That guy's terrible. You know what that guy did with sex? Look at that. Look at what he did over here. Oh, and that one, I don't know if that's true or untrue, but who cares? It's online somewhere. It was in a forum. I saw it. It was emailed to his colleagues and to his family and friends. Here's another chart where they show all the different things that you could do to take advantage of people's psychology. They've got anthropology. They've studied all of this. I love the one on the right. Use their belief in religion to trick them into A, targeting someone, and B, getting everyone else to believe that that target deserves the derision, etc., and the propaganda that they received. And on the left, use compliance, obedience, and social networks. I mean, this is Propaganda 101 manual. We've literally got it now, and we know that GCHQ is using it. They have a whole different slide here. Show this one on the. If you notice the title, I can't break down all of their tactics here, but the title is Gambits for Deception. Well, isn't that lovely? And finally, I'm going to show you one more slide here, because I think it's also very instructive. It says identifying and exploiting fracture points. So if you've got a group that's working well together and they have things that push the group together, well, you got to find ways to break it apart. So that it identifies things that pull a group apart. Personal power, pre-existing cleavage, and competition among ideological differences, etc. So in other words, get them to be bitter and jealous against one another, set them against one another, so if they dare ever unite against us, and our propaganda online didn't work, and our character assassinations didn't work, well then, go ahead and try to rip them apart by saying, oh, you see the differences that you guys have? Don't fight us, fight yourselves, fight each other. Now we know exactly what the government's up to. So when you see this online, know that that's exactly where it comes from. It's scary stuff, man, that this is what our government is now doing. The British government and all the Five Eyes that cooperate with them. Big Brother is here, and he's got some unbelievable propaganda headed in your direction.